Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Zero Hanger TV where we preview the National Draft, which is just over a week away. And joining me as a very special guest is Michael Alvaro, the Rookie Me Central Draft Analyst and Editor, set to help preview a number of prospects, what clubs could be doing. We'll have a look at Essendon, Collingwood, the top five, first round, and even some prospects for the years to come. But just to kick things off, Michael, lovely to have you on. How's it been in the lead up to the draft?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really busy. So I think we've gotten all the footy out of the way and then obviously writing up the draft guide and all the profiles. So exciting times, getting in touch with a lot of people. It's always busy. So I think above all exciting.
Yeah, certainly a labour of love, that draft guide, which we'll touch on later into the show. Absolute magnificent piece of work from the team at Rookie Me Central. But just to preview the draft itself, and where better to start than at the very top and looking at the top five.
Yep.
I guess we're not really in for too many surprises. Maybe where a bid comes in for Will Ashcroft, but when you've got the likes of Cadman, Sardis, Sheasel, Wardlaw and Ashcroft himself, that looks to be locked in. Is that the way you see it at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. So the big surprise might be obviously what GWS does. And in my eyes, Will Ashcroft's the best player in the draft crop. So if I was a GWS list manager, I'd be bidding on him straight away. But I don't think that's how it's going to pan out. I'd say they take Cadman. Obviously, you get a grant for being pick number one, and that's a bit of a positive and can help entice him up to Sydney. So I think that's what they'll do. Then obviously Ashcroft, as you mentioned, North Melbourne with a couple of picks, you'd think George Wardlaw's a nice replacement for Jason Horne-Francis, and Harry Sheasel, like what a gun, top five player, you'd think. And then rounding it out with Essendon, that's maybe a bit of a pivot point. I reckon Elijah Sardis is their man. Yeah,
if they probably do look elsewhere, like you said, likely a good fitting prospect for their midfield, Elijah Sardis. But is there anyone that could creep in? Bailey Humphrey, Mateus Philippou, one of these outside players who could be a surprise in the top five?
Yeah, I mean, they'd all be great fits. You think that Essendon probably need a bit of power and grunt in their engine room, so Bailey Humphrey would be great. Ruben Gimby, even from Western Australia. We know that West Coast is obviously hovering for him, so I think the ones you mentioned there are definitely in the frame.
Yeah, and kind of looking at that's 6 to 10 blocks. So we'll have, after the bid comes in, the Suns, all those picks will be pushed back. But you'll have the Suns in there, the Hawks, Geelong, and then West Coast, as you mentioned, St Kilda, reeling out that top 10. So from when the Suns enter, they'll be in a pretty interesting spot. They have a number of list needs. So is there a standout option for them? Is it a Humphrey or Philippou, or they could go for a Jimby in that midfield?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty much one of those three. So I think Ruben Gimby might top their list. Then you look at Bailey Humphrey. I think they're looking for a similar type of player with who they're going to get. If Sardis falls, I think he probably goes to Hawthorn. But then, there's Geelong just after them as well. You've got Jai Clark, who obviously is a local boy and a natural sort of replacement for Joel Selwood. The fit is almost too good to be true, so it all sort of pans out nicely. Then you've even got St Kilda, a guy like Cam McKenzie who's in their Next Generation Academy, and you're thinking, well, they wouldn't have gotten him through bidding, so they can just draft them themselves. So all the pieces sort of tend to fall into place, and even Carlton, who have picked 10, which will obviously drop back a little bit, could be an Ollie Hollands. They could pick up a key defender in Jed Buslinger. So it really is, I think, that Essendon pick that determines where the rest of the players go, because that sort of top 12, I think, is quite universal. Most recruiters would have the same players in there. And we know that West Coast is going to probably pick up a local boy. So that's how I think it's going to fall.
So for the Eagles, if Jimby's on offer, he's probably the one they go for. And then if not, do they pick between a Buslinger or a Hewitt?
Yeah, well, I think it'd be, if Gimby's not on board, then it's probably going to be Buslinger or Ed Allen, which is a bit of a surprise. We've got him sort of all the way down at 25 in our power rankings. But the upside that he offers, he's so athletic, can play multiple positions, and only played a handful of games this year. So there's a bit of an unknown. There's a lot of crystal balling in that pick if it happens. I think, 8 or 12 they've got. So Ed Allen might come into the equation there. It'd be a cool pick.
Yeah, they've certainly got a few options there, and then you push back to early 20s and then another one in the mid-20s for the Eagles. So plenty for them to work with there. Now, you mentioned Jai Clark. Now, a Hawthorn an option to kind of pick him with their first round selection and kind of have a whole shuffle in those following few selections? Because if they go for a Clark, you know, they overlooked a Joel Selwood in the 2006 draft, and we saw how that panned out for them and for the Cats subsequently. So if they go for a Clark, what does that mean for Geelong, and who would they be looking at? And would it be a Cam McKenzie? Then all of a sudden you've got St Kilda looking elsewhere as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's so interesting. I think Jai Clark's even a really good Sam Mitchell pick, because he's just a tough, hard-at-it midfielder, can kick both feet, which we know Sam Mitchell did so well as well. So that would make a little bit of sense, but I think they'd probably look for a bit more power, a bit more speed with their midfield pick. Obviously, they've just sort of dished off Jager O'Meara and Tom Mitchell, who were a bit slower, those sort of accumulators and reliable ball winners, a bit like Jai Clark will probably be. So I think that they're looking for power. So someone like a Humphrey or a Ginbey in particular would be their man. But yeah, it's the door's open for Geelong. I mean, if they don't get Clark, there's so many in that range. That makes sense. So it's just, that from 5 to 10, like anything goes. It's a free-for-all.
And you said it can be somewhat similar for those from 10 onwards. And if we kind of look at the back end of the first round, there's a few clubs that hold multiple picks. Sydney have a couple in there. GWS have 4 across the top 20. So they're going to be major players even after that Cadman bid. So what do you kind of see GWS if they get their key forward? Do they look for more key position players with those other 3 selections, or is it a balance, or do they really need to fill in that midfield that after losing Taranto and Hopper?
Yeah, I think they go for mids or mid forwards. So. Or just players that want to be there. The go home factor we've seen is obviously massive, just losing, as you mentioned, Taranto and Hopper. Jeremy Cameron, whose replacement is, Aaron Cadman in a sense.
Yeah.
So, after getting Cadman, I think they've really targeted guys like a Charlie Clark or a Jacob Constanti, who don't really have an issue moving into state. I think they think they can stand on their own 2 feet and are happy to do so. They may take the Brisbane approach of taking, country kids out of Victoria, and then they have to think about Harry Rouston as well a little bit further down the order. He might come into that early second round or late first round calculation. So plenty to think about. I reckon they'll go with those sort of zippy types. So as I mentioned, Constanti and Clark, I reckon they'll be right up their alley.
Yeah, perfect. And then Collingwood, another one. Very interesting for the Pies. I think a lot of people are kind of leaning towards maybe a defensive option. If Bustling is there somehow at pick 16, which might become 17 or even 18 after further father-son bids, but he'd be the ideal prospect for them. But who else could be available to them as a key defensive option?
Yeah, they'd probably go for someone like a Lewis Hayes if that's the case. Even Henry Huswaite's been linked to him heavily. I reckon they could get him in the second round with one of their 2 picks there in the 20s. But Lewis Hayes, if they need a key defender, he's probably the man. Josh Weddle as well. Obviously a little smaller than Hayes. And Bustlinger, but super athletic, so he can play a range of roles. His athleticism's amazing, he can cover the ground with ball in hand, but also is really good aerially. He marked Aaron Cadman when they played against each other for Metro and Country, so a few key defensive options there. Even a guy like Charlie Clark, I think, is one that they're monitoring. I believe he's a Pies fan, so that would make a bit of sense too.
Yeah, add a lot of fire to that forward line that Craig McRae already possesses. Among those key defensive options as well, when you mentioned Hayes, a Weddle, and then maybe a more versatile option in Henry Huswaite, who's probably the most ready-made for them. If they probably need a bit of an injection, they've relied on some of their younger players to really give them some spark. Who could be the one that comes in and slots into a role next to Darcy Moore and Jeremy Howe and Braden Maynard, and really can just play his role from day one? Yeah,
I mean, you'd think, obviously with key position players, they take a little bit longer, so naturally most of them probably aren't ready-made. So you'd say with like a Bustling or a Hayes, Bustling is probably the more ready to go, more composed, more polished, accomplished sort of player. Lewis Hayes probably has a bit more development left. And then a guy like Josh Weddle probably isn't at the footballing level of a Hayes and Bustlinger. So he has the upside athletically, but doesn't have, I guess, the composure on the ball and things like that, the polish that those two might have. Henry Huswaite does have the fundamentals. The thing with him, and he's so unique, is that some of his downside sort of flies in the face of what recruiters are looking for. So he's not that quick. He's not sort of renowned for his competitiveness or hurt factor, but just his fundamentals, his composure, his poise, that versatility they're all really big ticks for him. So it's going to be interesting to see where he lands as well.
Yeah, really funny one. Can play back line, can put him right in the middle, 194 centimetres. So
Crazy.
Certainly a bit different from the new age midfielders that we've come to see in recent years. And then Hayes is, funny one, 200 centimetres tall, but very thin, pretty raw.
He almost plays smaller than his size. So he takes the kick ins, he's really comfortable in possession, and he's probably less physical than a lot of key defenders, but just his range and versatility to lock down, but also run off is really exciting. So yeah, he's going to be an interesting one for sure. Yeah.
Now Essendon's draft plans seem like they're pretty set in stone. Some would say when coming into pick 5's kind of the funny one, which they'll have a lot of eyes on, but. You'd think the next selection could be Owen Davey Jr. and then they have pick 22. So you'd think that Adrian Dodoro and his team are really going to be hoping that bid for Davey comes after 22, so they can get 3 very well rated players through the door. Where do you see that initial Davey bid coming on draft night?
Yeah, I mean they'd be sweating on that, really hoping it sort of comes after their pick 22. But I mean he probably is a talent within the top 20 and has been all year, and they're probably lucky in a sense that Jayden did his ACL and wasn't in contention as well, because I know some people at the Chargers think he's actually better.
Really?
Yeah, different players obviously, but 2 ripping kids, and they're going to get Jayden on the cheap really. So, and then obviously there's the Anthony Mankara factor, and he's so much of an unknown. He's maybe the most naturally talented kid out there, but hasn't played much footy, particularly at high levels, and whether he falls within the top 40, I think he would be on the board there for a lot of clubs. It's just a massive risk to take, and with the bidding process as well. So, so much hinges on what Essendon can do and will do. Obviously, firstly with that number 5, but then afterwards where their father-son picks, other clubs' fate rests in their hands early on, and then their fate rests in other clubs' hands. So. It's a really odd dynamic for the Bombers, and they're not afraid to ruffle a few feathers. So it'd be cool to see what happens there.
Yeah, the Mankara one's really interesting for me. I think what we saw earlier on the season, especially in that game for Australia against Collingwood's VFL side, he was scintillating in the glimpses we had.
Yeah.
Had some great games at the sample under 18s level. Probably didn't shine at the national championships level, but he's just one of those players that you're not going to get the best out of him every game, but when you do get it, you're seeing exactly what you're in stock for. And like you said, one of the most talented. If he can really get things right at the Bombers, he's going to be could be one of the pickups of the draft should he fall past that pick 40 bid. So really exciting. And then Jayden and Owen Jr. I guess Jayden probably plays a bit more like his dad, whereas Owen probably plays a bit more like Aaron Davies. So some great options there for the Bombers, and fingers crossed for them that bid comes after pick 22, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 draftees that are really exciting for Essendon in a period that's been quite hard for them in the last year or so.
Even so, their youth looks good. So they've got guys like Perkins and Cox who are coming through. Nick Martin's a gun. So Harry Jones, even the list goes on. So with another big draft haul, I'm sure they'll get up there. As a powerhouse club soon enough.
So I want to talk about maybe some prospects, because there are a lot of father-sons, academy guys, these maybe fiery forwards that get a lot of talk about. Are there any prospects that you think aren't getting a lot of attention that could be either sliding up the draft board or not, or could maybe fall back because there's not too much attention and could be one of the steals of the draft? There
are a couple. I think Harvey Gallagher's one who I rate so highly. I loved watching him, and the Bendigo region. Danny O'Brien, their coach, is an absolute legend. So he helped obviously with that move for Harvey to shift to defence, and he found his late season form, which is super impressive. The numbers he put up was sort of Dacos-like, obviously playing a different position, but he's kicking multiple goals from half back, covering so much ground. His foot skills are great, the way he carries the ball. So I think he's going to be a really good pickup, and one who has a few different strings to his bow. So obviously you can still be a goal-kicking midfielder as well, or a small forward. I know he's in Carlton's VFL side, and as a Blue supporter, I hope that link pays, but we'll see how that goes. Another one who's getting some attention lately is Jacob Ryan. He's going to be a pretty high upside player. His athleticism is great, but he uses the ball really well. He can play on each line, so I think he might be a sneaky chance even for a Collingwood pick in the first round.
16.
Yeah, so But yeah, we'll see on that. He's definitely one who could provide that really good value.
Yeah, a lot of good kind of key positional spine players coming out of South Australia this year, and Jacob Ryan being one of them with Glenelg. So really exciting for them. And then, as you mentioned, Gallagher missed the draft last year. Has had some good opportunities with some of the, when you talk about with Carlton, with Bendigo, and even some of those games in the...
you've got a Vic Country call-up, even the Young Guns games and things like that.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so he even might have been an option at the mid-season draft. Hopefully now an option for him at the national draft. And then on top of that, and I guess he is one of those kind of mature age prospects. He is really only an age older after missing the draft. But you do get a lot of these stories. Garrett McDonough, a perfect one from last year. Greg Clark, after some great seasons in the waffle with Subiaco, who could be that mature age prospect that kind of gets another chance, or it gets the eventual chance as an older talent for AFL clubs to consider.
Yeah, I'd say Ethan Phillips is probably the one. Obviously a key defender out of Port Melbourne in the VFL. There's not many recruits out of the VFL these days. It's probably quietened up in the last few years, but he took out the Rising Star medal, if you wish, out of the VFL, and most people who win that get drafted. So you'd say
it's a past 14 for the Gil Round Mitchell medal winners, and right. Charlie Dean was the latest last year.
Correct. Yeah. So another key defender wins it, and given there's probably not a whole lot of high-end key defenders available after Jed Buslinger and maybe Lewis Hayes, Josh Weddle, so he might be one sort of in the mid-range of the draft, or even later on, who clubs sort of look at and say, okay, you're ready made, ready to go, let's get you in. There's also Joe Richards out of Wangaratta, who is really exciting. Speedy midfielder, another one who's pretty ready to go. He kicks goals from midfield, hard at it, just works really hard as well. So I know that he's impressed a lot of clubs. So there are a couple. Harvey Gallagher was the other one, as we said, as a 19-year-old. Bain and Lowe got a draft combine invite, having moved to South Australia from Tasmania. He's sort of remodelled his game as a small forward, having cut his teeth as a midfielder. So there's a few there. I'd probably go with the first three I mentioned. Bain and Lowe's another late or rookie chance as well. So it's funny sort of ranking him. Some people may ask, why haven't you got some of these 19-year-olds still in, your top 40 or 50? I think the basic answer for that, it might sound harsh, but they're outside the top 60 or 70 in AFL clubs' minds in their own draft. So to put them in that kind of range the next year is really hard to do, basically. So that's the sort of measure of it, and that's sort of how we tend to think of it. That's why a lot of the players in our rankings are those top ages. Yeah,
it's so hard to get around on some of these players as well. And you look at maybe the SSP period from earlier this year. You had a Jack Hayes, you have Nick Martins, and these guys who, there's a lot of talk about them, and you want to see why, and some of them show exactly why. So there were a couple, and it could be the same for a Phillips or a Richards, who might have to just bide their time across the pre-season. Yeah. It doesn't always work out, but you have a lot of guys who get overlooked in the draft, like a Josh Cripps, Tyrese Liu with Carlton last year. So certainly some opportunities even after the national draft for these older guys. Absolutely. And maybe we might see one like a Charlie Dean fall to the rookie draft, and hopefully a player like him can get on the park next year after a tough year at Collingwood. And then even looking, I guess, even further ahead from the pre-season, if we talk about 2023, there is a standout name in Harley Reid. There's plenty of attention with him, and we're maybe over 12 months away from the 2023 national draft. But just how warranted is the talk about Harley Reid?
Fully. I've watched this kid since he was like 15. He's played NAB League in his under 16 year and was like incredible. So he can play in every third of the ground. His athleticism's there. His footy smarts. He's so exciting. Good head on his shoulders, just like a super character. Really confident, but not cocky. So I think he's just a super player and personality who fans are going to really love watching. They already have, like, his highlight reel is amazing already in the NAB League. So he's the number one in my eyes and in pretty much all recruiters' eyes. I'd say it's a bit like an Ashcroft case from last year and Dacos the year before. But yeah, there's so many more. Like, I think this draft is going to be much better than, or the 2023 draft is going to be much better than 22's, at least for depth. There's always the top end talents, but there's so many more that we can talk about. Nick Watson, Zane Dersma, Nate Caddy, Jed Walters a gun, Ashton Moyer. So they could even be contenders for Harley Reid's number one spot. we've got a whole year ahead to watch these guys. So that's what's most exciting.
Yeah, it's funny. I think even someone mentioned Reid could be a top 5 prospect this year. If clubs had an early access to him somehow, he could go very early in the first round, even being a year younger. And then that top 5, like you said, is that kind of, if you were picking your top 5 nowadays, some of the names, Zane Des, obviously the younger brother of Xavier and Yasmin at Port Adelaide. But what kind of player is he? He's a bit different to his brother, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's he's approaching 190 centimetres, so he plays mostly forward. Really good overhead, great aerial abilities, vertical leaps, fantastic, clean hands, and he utilises that trait in midfield as well. So we saw often this year that in the first centre bounce of each quarter, he would win the first clearance. It was just a really uncanny sort of ability he had. So he's got sort of that scope and potential to play in midfield as well. But yeah, a little different to his siblings. There's of course another Dersma coming through as well after him. So yeah, exciting times for the Dersma clan. And a funny thing about them, of course, they've got Xavier's ex, Yasmin Mai.
Willem as well, yeah.
So they had 3 kids. They had to go backwards in the alphabet to get Willem in. So yeah, I mean, just a super sporting family and great kids as well.
Well, Michael, I want to say thank you for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and just want to highlight that the draft guide that Rookie Me Central have put together this year, over 130 player profiles that you can view online for free, 150 plus pages of content. Must have been so much work put into this across the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I guess, a whole year's work, as you say, sort of coming into one publication. So yeah, I hope people can enjoy it, and it gives them a little insight into obviously how the players play, and you know, when your club picks up you know, a prospect, you want to see the sort of the crux of what they can provide. So that's hopefully what it does, and there's plenty of other content in there as well, of course, like power rankings, I guess all the need to know sort of stuff, like you know, father-son bids and whatnot, and the pick by pick. So it's going to be updated as well. Yeah, appreciate the plug. There's plenty that goes into it, and plenty more. So yeah, hope you enjoy.
And the best part, it's free as well. So can just be downloaded at central.rookieme.com, as well as on your Twitter page and stuff. It's all over socials for the Rookie Me Central pages. But yeah, some must-read viewing ahead of the draft, and even on draft night, like you said. I'll wrap up there for another episode of Zero Hanger TV. Thanks once again for watching. You can also head to our YouTube page for further videos on the latest AFL news, views and analysis, as well as zerohanger.com.